Join me as I dive deep into the mystery of the Great Gold Robbery of 1855. Britain's $10 million train heist. In the spring of 1855, one of the most extraordinary crimes in British history took place. A shipment of gold, worth over 12,000 pounds at the time, or more than $10 million today, was stolen without a single shot fired, without breaking a single lock, and without anyone even noticing, until it was far too late. This was not a crime of impulse. It was a masterpiece of planning. A heist so clean, so perfect that even detectives couldn't figure out how it had happened, at least not right away. This is the story of the Great Gold Robbery of 1855, a train heist that changed how Britain thought about crime, trust, and security. It all began with a routine transport. Gold bars from the Bank of England and several London merchants were set to be delivered to Paris. The process was standard. The gold would be packed into 3 iron-bound boxes, sealed with wax and string, locked tight with secure padlocks, and placed on board a train from London Bridge to the port of Folkestone. From there, it would cross the Channel and be delivered to French officials. The gold was entrusted to the Southeastern Railway, a company that, by 1855, had built a reputation for reliability. But behind the scenes, a group of criminals had already begun working their way into the system. The leader was Edward Agar, a man with a respectable appearance and a criminal mind. Agar was a con artist with a history of forgery, fraud, and escape from justice. He knew the value of a good plan and how to use the right people to pull it off. His first recruit was William Pierce, a slick and charismatic trickster. Pierce introduced Agar to a railway clerk named William Tester, a man who could provide schedules, access, and inside knowledge. Tester, in turn, introduced them to James Burgess, a locksmith who was willing to duplicate the train safe's keys for a price. Over the course of several weeks, the gang developed a plan. They would intercept the gold en route during the train ride itself. They learned that the boxes were placed in the guard van and left largely unattended. With duplicate keys and forged wax seals, they could open the safes, remove the gold, replace it with lip bars of the same weight, and reseal everything, all while the train was moving. It was bold. It was risky, but it worked. On May 15th, 1855, the plan went into motion. The gold was loaded as usual and secured in the guard's van. But once the train departed from London Bridge, everything changed. At a scheduled stop, believed to be Redhill, the conspirators boarded the train. With forged keys in hand, they quietly unlocked the safes. They moved fast, pulling out over 200 pounds of gold bars and stuffing in the painted lead replacements they had prepared in advance. Time was critical. They resealed the strings with fake wax imprints, relocked the safes, and left the van just as quietly as they had entered. When the train arrived in Folkestone, the guards had no reason to suspect anything. The boxes looked untouched. Everything was sealed. Everything was in order. It wasn't until the crates were opened in Paris that the truth came out. The French officials were stunned. The boxes were intact, but inside were bars of worthless lead. The gold had vanished without a trace. Panic spread quickly. Scotland Yard was called in, and an urgent investigation began. How could such a theft take place without any sign of forced entry? How could the seals be unbroken, the locks untouched, and yet the gold missing? Detectives began scrutinizing every stage of the journey. They questioned guards, reviewed procedures, and checked maintenance records. But nothing obvious stood out. And then came the break. Investigators traced the wax seals and discovered subtle differences. The forgery wasn't perfect. It was good, very good, but not flawless. Soon after, a locksmith named James Burgess came under suspicion. He had a connection to Tester and had recently come into money. That led police to Tester and then to Pierce. But the real confession came from within. Edward Agar, the mastermind, had been arrested on an unrelated fraud charge. While in prison, he discovered that William Pierce, the man he trusted most, had betrayed him. Pierce had failed to care for Agar's mistress and child while he was locked up. Furious and betrayed, Agar wrote a full confession. In court, his statement shocked the nation. Agar laid out the plan in vivid detail, how they duplicated the keys, forged the seals, weighed the lead, and timed the switch down to the minute. His testimony was airtight. In 1856, the trials began. William Pierce, William Tester, and James Burgess were convicted and sentenced to years of penal servitude, a brutal form of hard labor. Agar, despite his cooperation, also received a lengthy sentence, though slightly reduced due to his testimony. Most of the gold was never recovered. It's believed that it was melted down and discreetly sold, likely before the police even knew it was gone. Some believe parts of it still lie hidden somewhere in rural England, buried in secret by the robbers. The Great Gold Robbery of 1855 had a massive impact. Railway procedures changed overnight. Security became tighter. Chain of custody policies were rewritten. The idea that something could be both locked and looted was terrifying, and now very real. It also changed how criminals were viewed. This wasn't a smash and grab job. It was surgical. It was quiet. And it was done by men in suits, not masks. The story inspired books, films, and even a 1979 movie starring Sean Connery called The First Great Train Robbery. But no fictional version could ever match the bizarre brilliance of the real thing. In the end, this crime wasn't just about gold. It was about trust and how fragile it can be. Locks can be picked, seals can be faked, and sometimes the real danger doesn't come from outside, but from those who already hold the keys. If you found this story fascinating, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into history's boldest crimes, and let us know in the comments, was this genius or just luck? See you in the next case.